conifers. We love them, we put lights on them, we sing songs about them, we hang baubles and trinkets on them. But can we eat them? Well, as a wise man once said,
Ever eat a pine tree? Many parts are edible.
from ground-up cones to needle-tip syrup, from bark flower, pollen, and so-called berries to needle tea, many pines and other coniferous trees have proven quite useful as food and medicine, sometimes even life-saving. But when Christmas rolls around and stores stock up on trees, they always label them with phrases like, "This one has good branches. This one keeps its needles." The thing they never seem to say is, how does it taste? Maybe this one has a citrusy, resinous flavor good for tea. This one warm, spicy flavor that works well in cookies. As a consumer, I want to know which Christmas tree tastes the best. So to figure this out, I went to Calgary to visit my cousin Zach, a conifer man if ever I've known one. A man who practically oozes resin himself, and who probably would have named his child Douglas Fir if she'd been a boy. So he and I went around Calgary, cruising for a sprucing, if you will, knocking on doors and looking for any and all conifers that we could taste without breaking any laws. Zach regaling me with conifer facts the whole time.
And the resin blisters are quite fun to pop, but then you get sap on your fingers. Needles in groups of 5, bundled together so tightly.
Oh, like that's classic. Like, see how it's diamondy and wavy? Almost like ripple chips.
Some aren't traditional Christmas trees, granted, but hey, that sounds less like a botanical problem and more like an attitude problem. And we decided the simplest way to test this many flavors would be to make tea from the branch tips. We didn't bother to separate the needles from the twigs, but that could affect the flavor. Now, 2 words of warning here. First, some conifers are more edible than others. Some you can consume plenty, others are fine in small amounts like we're doing here, but dangerous if you consume too much, or if, unlike me, you're pregnant. And some should just be avoided in all cases. So if you want to eat a tree, make sure it's a safe one first. Second, careful where you get your branches. Many Christmas tree stores and farms will spray their trees with pesticides and sometimes even coloring. They don't usually expect people to be eating their trees. We just got samples from people's yards and public lands, so we're safe there. But make sure you know what you're eating. That out of the way, we'll be rating these on a scale of 1 to 10.
10 out of 10 is I want to have another cup right now. 5 out of 10, think of, those grocery store carrots, not the organic ones, not from your garden, just, boring carrot from a grocery store. You bite it, there's pretty much no flavor, and you go, I guess it's good for me. But you don't really want to have any more, not without dip. And then 0 is like, I want to spit it out, but I probably won't because this is my house, and then the floor would have to get cleaned.
Okay, fair enough. I think that works. And with that, we set to steeping. Our first tea came from Alberta's provincial tree, a common one in Calgary and in the forests nearby towards the Rocky Mountains. Lodgepole pine, named for the fact that many local indigenous groups used them as poles for building teepees. Usually very straight-trunked trees.
Although the scientific name is interesting, Pinus contorta, because they were first seen by Europeans on the coast where the sea breeze makes them all, what's the word for that? Contorted.
Yeah. Fun fact with these, in fire-prone areas, these are one of the conifers that actually likes forest fires. The trees may die, but their cones are sealed shut with resin, and so aren't able to unseal and release their seeds unless heated by something hot, like a fire. And they're usually one of the first tree species to spring up again once a forest fire has gone through. Depends on the area, though, and in less fire-prone areas, they tend to have less or even no resin sealing their cones. But how do they taste?
Smells, is that like a little bit of clove?
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's a lot milder of a smell than I was...
Yeah, the flavor is not that strong. Kind of like green tea.
Yeah, that is... that reminds me a lot of just a mild green tea. There's a faint resinous element there, but it's pretty mild. Yeah, it's just makes me think of like green tea or maybe Labrador tea, like you find out in the wild in Manitoba.
Okay, so if 10 is I want another cup right now, And 5 is boring supermarket carrots. And let's say 7.5, which is in between the two, is like green tea.
Right.
Which has caffeine. So I'm going to rate it 6. What do you think? 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I would give this. I'd say a solid 6. Like it's not. Or I'll give it 7. It's quite mild, but it's a nice flavor.
You know what? What you exchange in caffeine, you get in vitamin C, right?
Yeah.
So I'll change mine to 7 because there is something in there that you benefit.
I mean that will be in all of these presumably, but okay, that's not bad. Yeah. Faint Christmassiness to it, faint resinous, but.
Well, the clove smell was nice.
Now, this second tree we were not expecting to gain easy access to in Calgary, nor is it a common Christmas tree, especially since many of them are protected and they're very slow growers. But maybe if you have a potted one or one in your yard, it would certainly make a very unique Christmas tree. This is a Rocky Mountain bristlecone pine. Up close, they have a somewhat Dr. Seussian look to them, this interesting pattern of gaps between rings of needles which make them look kind of like pipe cleaners. And then, of course, also cones with bristles on them. Even more so than the lodgepoles, if these grow in exposed windy areas, as they often do high in the mountains, they tend to grow into what's called a Krummholz form, a twisted and gnarled, bushy form. Some of these can get to be over 1,000 or even 2,000 years old. Their close cousins, the Great Basin bristlecones, push that even further, past 4,000 years. Don't harvest those old ones, though, please. That would be both illegal and sad.
This thing, the needles were just covered in resin flakes, which apparently is a good way to tell that you're dealing with a Rocky Mountain bristlecone pine and not a Great Basin one. And I think I can see little globules of resin in the top.
Yeah.
The smell? Is that a little citrusy?
Oh, that's kind of, lemony peppery, I would say.
Oh, lemon pepper. It's bitter.
Oh, okay.
And then pepper.
That is nice and fragrant, though. I'll give it a high mark on the smell. Yeah, citrus and pepper. That's what I'm smelling there.
The bitterness lingers at the back of the throat.
I see what you mean. It's definitely not like wormwood level bitter or burdock.
Oh, okay.
It's more like, I don't know, plantain stalks to me, as in like broadleaf plantain. But I wonder if you sweetened it, if it would be a bit better.
That is a possibility.
But
add honey. But we're rating these on their own, right?
Yeah. Okay.
I think I would give that a 2 out of 10. I did not appreciate the bitterness, but the aroma was nice.
Yeah. The flavor, I guess, it has sort of those elements in the smell, but they're just kind of faint background notes, and it's mainly just that kind of bitterness, like a bitter green. So, yeah, 2 is a fair assessment.
So far, we're in agreement.
I'll give 3. Give it a 3.
I thought you might tolerate bitterness better than me.
I do like my bitter greens. Next up was a classic.
They're often called Colorado blue spruce, native to Colorado, among other places.
Today, though, they are very widespread in North America as a windbreak and ornamental. Their classic color comes from a waxy blue coating on their needles that rubs off easily and doesn't tend to come back. The biological function of the wax seems to help with preventing water loss, helpful in both dry winters and summers, and it also helps reflect some of the sunlight, keeping it a bit cooler in summer.
I'm a little suspicious, though, with the Latin name Picea pungens,
Right, yeah.
as to whether it will be that delicious.
Right.
But this is for science.
Yeah.
So, snip, snip.
How's the smell on these?
Honestly, kind of a pleasant, spicy spruce. Like, it's pretty nice smell.
Oh yeah, okay, smells like home. Yeah, it's much warmer smell than I was expecting, though.
How could you describe it?
I would say like a very mild gingerbread sort of smell.
Ooh, let me see.
Very mild, but that ballpark of smells, I think.
Yeah, I'm towards ginger, I think. Okay. That is nice. Maybe pungens is a good thing in Latin.
Turns out the pungens part, it comes from the Latin word for sharp, which in this case just refers to its very sharp needles, not something to do with its flavor or smell. Okay. Yeah, it's fairly mild. I mean, that's maybe partly because a lot of the needles are out of the water, but it's that's just kind of the Christmas tree smell in a mild tea form, is what I'm getting from that.
I'm surprised how much I like this one. I think I'm going to give it an 8. I just feel like maybe it'll do something funny to me. I don't know. Like if I drink too much, am I going to regret it?
Yeah, like the resinous, you get a bit of the resinous smell, but it's not a strong, sharp note or anything like that. It's just pleasant, warm Christmas tree in a beverage. Oh yeah, I'd give that I mean, I imagine we could make it a little stronger. But otherwise, yeah, I'd say 8. I was wondering whether to... okay, didn't taste it stronger. If it was stronger, I might give it a 9, but as is, I think an 8.
All right. Oh, and why you'd have this as a Christmas tree? Well, could be fun to have a blue, blue, blue Christmas. Is that going to get you demonetized?
No, that won't. This one we also weren't expecting to include. Zach and I were prowling around Calgary looking for good conifers when Zach spotted this guy in someone's yard. A limber pine. Zach knocked on the door, and turns out the owner was, well, who else would plant a limber pine, not a common ornamental at all? He was a retired botanist. He appreciated Zach's love of conifers, and he let us take samples from all his trees, including the bristlecone pine earlier. He had apparently saved this limber pine from a construction site marked for clearing years ago, and now it was thriving. The name limber pine, or flexilis in the scientific name, these trees have very flexible branches. It's part of how they handle strong winds and heavy snows, and means they can be a good shelter for animals living in those harsh environments, and a natural deterrent against heavy Christmas ornaments. There is a famous photogenic limber pine near the highway if you happen to drive through the small town of Burmis, Alberta. It's been dead for almost 50 years, but it was apparently over 600 years old, and the locals even propped it back up again after it fell down at one point, and even convinced the government to build the highway around the tree instead of destroying it.
So anyways, this is an oddball one, but a beautiful tree.
Yeah.
Nice big cones, needles in groups of 5, very long, nice smooth white bark. I mean, a bit of the gingerbready smell, but also...
I think it's a little sharper, isn't it?
Well, would you say there's a bit of a, like, cabbagey cooked vegetable smell?
Didn't notice that at first.
I mean, it has been sitting there longer.
I'm not really noticing that sort of thing. Maybe a little bit of just, I know when we would leave a Christmas tree outside and it would start to decay a little bit, there's maybe a little bit, like not in a bad way. It's not a bad smell. Slightly fermented.
So, similar to the lodgepole pine, but with a hint of something I don't like. Whether it's old overcooked vegetables or a Christmas tree that you've left up for too long. Seaweed? I'm going to rate that...
I'm not actually getting a whole lot of flavor out of this one, myself.
I mean, not a lot. Perhaps if we boiled it in the water, we'd get more flavor, more vitamins.
Oh, okay. It's definitely got flavor when you chew on the needles, but...
Apologies to anyone who does not like slurping sounds. I mean...
I think it's got a little bit more of the mouth coating feeling of resin.
In the sense of that I want to have this less than a grocery store carrot, I'm going to rate it a 4.
Yeah, okay. After having drank more of it now, it's like hot water with a bit of resin that's coating my mouth is what I'm getting from this.
Yes?
With a faint Christmas tree taste. slightly old Christmas tree taste. So I'll rate this one a 3.
And we got this one fresh.
Actually, rate this a 2.
A 2?
I'll put that lower than bristlecone.
Yeah. I like this more than the bristlecone because that one was quite lingering and bitter.
Right. I would rather have bitter than sticky.
Okay.
Next, at the same botanist's house, we found a mugo pine.
A common high-altitude pine of the Alps, I believe, that's widely planted ornamentally in Canada.
Yeah.
Because high mountains of Europe will have a similar climate to lower elevation Canada. If you plan to turn one of your yard bushes into a Christmas tree, this could be a good one.
Yeah, it doesn't exactly have the typical growth habit of a Christmas tree, but... Worth noting that some mugo pines do have the classic Christmas tree shape, but most don't, like this one.
And it smells like tree sap.
Okay. It's a fairly mild smell, but yeah, it's definitely got Christmas tree smell. This one's I'd say a little brighter. Yes, slightly brighter than like a balsam.
I mean, some of these smells, I go, oh, it smells like a pine tree. And maybe that's because we had one in our front yard as a kid, and so that's what pine trees smell like.
Right, yeah.
I'd say it's similar to the lodgepole pine for me. Again, kind of just tastes like green tea. Oh, there's some very late bitterness. Very slight, though. Not like the bristlecone pine.
I'm getting a weird note from this one.
Mm-hmm.
That's...
Lodgepole was
It reminds me a bit of that, maybe a bit brighter, but it's almost like in the smell and a little bit in the flavor, there's a faint note of like when you smell a fast food restaurant from down the road. Just faint. Am I going crazy with that?
like deep frying oil on the air.
Yeah.
I mean, how much fat is in resin?
I don't think it's particularly fatty.
I am going to rate this just slightly lower than the lodgepole because I'm getting those hints of bitterness. And again, this could do with steeping time. So I'm going to give it a 6.
Yeah, there's something just faintly fast foody about it. And I don't know how else to describe that. But
And you don't love fast food.
Oh, no, I don't mind fast food. I don't mind this one. It does have a bit of the mouth coatingness. Maybe I should be cleansing my palate between these. Yeah, maybe I would rate that a 6.
Okay.
That's a solid 6. Next, if you're looking at Christmas trees but want a hipster option, why not try, instead of a pine or spruce, a juniper?
These are one of the few junipers out here that actually approach tree size. They often have a blue sheen to them. They're pretty neat. I see them planted in yards here. And the berries tend to have a menthol flavor, so I'm kind of excited.
Now, worth noting here that most junipers you want to avoid large doses, or any doses if you're pregnant. The berries, which are in botanical terms not berries but actually modified cones, they can be used as a spice in moderation, as Zach mentioned, but how would the leaves taste?
So this does smell like how juniper berries taste.
That's sweeter than I was expecting. It really reminds me of something. What is that?
Now, it can vary by species. The common juniper I've found to be the most sickly sweet, with other species more menthol.
It reminds me of something I've tasted.
Not bubblegum, hey?
No.
I don't know.
Is it one of those Middle Eastern desserts with like sweetened cheese in it?
Well, I couldn't help you there.
Okay.
Maybe tasting it will help.
Yeah. Just a faint note, but... Well, not that faint.
Wow. Okay. Strong flavor. Maybe the strongest thing we've tasted yet.
Probably has the most leaves in there as well. That's part.
Okay. Good steeping. Yeah, it tastes like juniper. It is different than eating the berry. I'm not sure if I prefer that to eating the berry. It is different.
There is something cheesy in there.
Cheese?
Cheese.
What kind of cheese? Middle Eastern sweetened cheese? I haven't tried that.
Wait. It's a very slightly funky cheese. Very slightly. Not like Swiss, or provolone, but maybe like an old camembert. slightly.
Okay, now I'm tasting like brie cheese rind.
Okay.
But
Slightly old.
I feel like you've ruined my mind now, and I don't want to think of it that way.
That's the main thing I'm tasting now. That and a little bit of resin.
Okay, I'm thinking of juniper, and I'm enjoying it more. Little bitterness. Okay, I think I like it more than the bristlecone, and I think I like it more, or about the same as a grocery store carrot. Maybe slightly less. Maybe I'll do 4.5 because it has a lot more flavor than the limber pine. It's just not entirely in the true sense of that. It is partly a good flavor, but not entirely.
Yeah. Yeah, I just can't get past
The cheese.
the cheese. And I'm a fan of a lot of cheese, but slightly sweetened brie rind with a little bit of resin.
I mean, for the viewers there, I would not call that the main flavor. It's just more like once you think of it, it's hard to stop thinking about it.
Oh, to me, that's at least half the flavor.
Okay.
Um,
How do you feel about cheese?
maybe with a hint of menthol. So,
How do you feel about mint cheese rind?
this is one I might have to sit with at the moment. I'm very unsure what to do with it mentally.
Question mark out of 10? In a bad way?
Yeah, I can't tell whether this is like a 3 or a 7.
Let's do a question mark out of 10.
Okay.
You can sort that out in post.
Yeah, sure.
What an experience.
Next, this is one of the most commonly used Christmas trees here in Canada. If you go to a cut-your-own Christmas tree farm, this may very well be the species of tree there. They have a good compact shape, hold onto their needles really well, smell nice. Despite the white in the name, it's a standard green, but does have little whitish stripes on the needles if you look closely. Along with a few other spruces, this one's wood is actually known for its good acoustic properties and is a popular one in making guitars and pianos. And being so common, it would be nice if this one turned out to be tasty. Let's see.
It's kind of a nice spicy scent. I mean, I think they're closely related to blue spruce.
Yeah, slightly was Colorado Blue the one that had a little bit of pepperiness to it?
Well, we said gingerbread.
Gingerbread, yeah.
Bristlecone, we said lemon pepper smell.
Oh yeah, that's true. This one, it's got a little faint bit of the black pepper smell to it, I think.
I like the smell.
Yeah, it's a nice smell.
Like if you took a gingerbread cookie and extracted all the sugar.
Yeah, I can see that. Except slightly more ginger.
I got, yeah, lots of ginger.
If you had gingerbread, but you actually made it taste like ginger.
I think it's stronger than the blue spruce. I mean, that could have been how we steeped it.
Yeah, they could definitely have gotten more needles in there. But yeah, no, this one, I would put this as a slightly better version of that.
It might be. But it's similar, and I'm kind of surprised how much so.
There's a faint sweetness in there, like almost a faint juniper berry sweetness.
I think I'll call it an 8.25 because I'm not sure that it being stronger is making me like it more. It's like more of the same, but maybe I like it mild.
Okay.
But that's a pretty good one.
Yeah. That I would say that is pretty good. Yeah, it's got gingerbread with a decent amount of ginger in it, and just a little bit of the juniper sort of smell.
But not in a cheesy way.
No, not like this juniper, but just in terms of like juniper berry.
Okay. Menthol?
Well, I'm used to the ones that are maybe a little more turpentine-y, but
Oh, okay.
not in a bad way though.
A nice turpentine.
Yeah. So I would give it 8.5.
8.5.
Yeah. Next up, the yew tree. Yeah, no, don't eat these ones. There's a number of yew species, but to my knowledge, they're all unsafe. They look tantalizing with their little red berry-like cones, but most of the plant is quite toxic. Some have found use medicinally, such as in extracting paclitaxel, a major anti-cancer drug. Some have been historically very important for making bows due to the wood's flexibility, and some are important in various mythologies. Actually, Yggdrasil, the world tree in Norse mythologies, was probably originally meant to be a giant yew tree, though there's some disagreement there. But yeah, don't make the regrettable mistake of consuming these needles. Anyway, next we had Eastern Red Cedar, which, funny enough, isn't a cedar, but actually a juniper. And to add a bit more confusion, a bird, the cedar waxwing, got named cedar not because of actual cedars, but because it enjoys the berries of these junipers so much. Like some true cedars, this one has very good aromatic wood for making things that are rot and insect resistant. But unlike them, this one also has the classic-looking edible juniper berries, which Zach described as
sickly sweet, mentholy. As far as junipers go, not too bad.
But again, we're here for the leaves.
Oh, and automatic -1 from me because I stabbed myself on it, because I wasn't expecting that. Smells like juniper.
Okay. Straight up juniper?
Yep.
Oh.
Not really smelling much from there. I mean, just maybe more juniper, less menthol. I mean, kind of in a nice way. If someone was like, what does juniper smell like? You'd be like, that.
Yeah, less cheese in this one.
No, that's good.
Something else I was detecting there. I'm not quite sure. I'll see if I...
Citrusy, piney. A little bitter. Oh, and then, okay, so bitter up front, juniper at the end.
Hold on.
In kind of a nice way.
Okay, that was a big gulp. Yeah, I don't know if I'm as big on this one.
I kind of like it. I don't think it's my favorite of the ones we've tried.
There's sort of a spicy vegetable sort of note in there too.
What are...
Maybe like a burdock, but with a hint of radish.
Oh, radish.
Just a hint.
A hint of radish, maybe, yeah.
Mixed
I
with
kind of like it. Have I rated anything 7.5? I think I'll give it a 7.5. I'm surprised.
It's almost like a slightly hot bitterness. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, I feel like when I had... Is it water spinach with the hollow stems? Or arugula. Arugula
okay.
Spicy bitter. Yeah, I kind of like that.
I'm not quite... I really like the smell. I'm not as huge on the flavor. I'm getting a lot of bitterness from this one. And not as nice of a bitterness as the bristlecone pine. I think I'm going to give this one a 3 or 4.
3 to 4.
Yeah.
Spicy bitter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Spicy bitter, only a faint hint of cheese, but... Speaking of cedars that aren't cedars, many botanists would argue that North America doesn't natively actually have any true cedars, reserving that term for the Cedrus genus, and that the things people call cedars in North America should be called arbor vitae, or false cedars, or just their genus name, Thuja in this case. Whether you would call this one a cedar or not, their common name is Eastern white cedar, though its scientific name means Western. Nice trees, though. They may have actually been the tree that famously saved the lives of explorer Jacques Cartier's crew when they were stuck on the St. Lawrence River. The crew had scurvy, and it was the dead of winter when not many vitamin C sources are available, but an Iroquois man named Domagaya showed them how to make a conifer beverage, giving them that vitamin C and managing to save much of the crew. That story is where the term arbor vitae came from, Latin for tree of life.
You like it?
I like the smell. See what you think, because I'm getting a definite note of something from that.
That is nice.
Yeah.
You know, I think this is one of the traditional indigenous medicines, along with sage, tobacco, and sweetgrass.
These 4 are commonly known as the 4 medicines, plants highly valued by many indigenous groups for health and for rituals, and sometimes in food too. This indigenous cookbook here even uses cedar leaves as flavoring in a number of dishes. I've got a link to this book and a few field guides down in the comments. Okay. Yeah. How would you describe that smell?
I'm having a hard time describing it, but it is nice. Does it remind you of... Shoot, what's that called? Cardamom?
Cardamom. Oh, I made.
Or,
I could kind of. What I saw more was there's a hint of cinnamon in there to me. It's not the main one. I would say. Well,
yeah, a hint of cinnamon.
have you smelled tansy before?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. It smells a lot like this. It's got kind of a not quite fruity, but definitely a bright, almost minty sort of smell.
But like citrus cinnamon. Yeah, there's a bit of mint.
Also, be careful about eating tansies; they can be quite poisonous. Great smell though.
The flavor is different. Whoa. There's a nice minty aftertaste.
That is nice.
I think I'm going to give that a 9.
I might even top that a little bit more with a 9.5.
I mean, I had heard about people using Western red cedar for tea, so I'm not surprised that Eastern white cedar is good for it. Yeah, you might find this in your yard, usually in quite a tower form here. Other places it might be more tree-like.
Yeah, that's just like a nice warm minty cedar or tansy sort of with a little bit of cinnamon. There's a faint bitter edge at the end, but not. I mean, it's covered over by the rest of the flavor, I'd say. And especially if you sweetened it very slightly, I'm sure that.
There's almost a warm flavor to it. Not spicy, but warm. Maybe that's cinnamony, like cinnamon mint. Cinnamon mint citrus.
Yeah, and it just
Lemongrass.
that I don't know if I see,
Okay.
but yeah, it kind of when you drink it, a second or two later, then it kind of up your nose.
It's a very nice one.
That is a nice one. I'm gonna give that. How did you describe 10 again?
10 is like, I want another cup of that right now.
I'll go 9.5 on this. 9.5. It's almost there.
Yeah. Now, I don't know how well it would decorate as a Christmas tree, but for eating,
Where there's a will, there's a way.
that is great.
Back to the more classic Christmas trees. Next, we went to Scots pine, the national tree of Scotland. Vast forests of this used to cover a lot of the Scottish Highlands, but today only about 1% of that forest remains. But it's still quite widespread throughout a lot of Europe and Asia, and it's popular elsewhere as a windbreak and ornamental, with its photogenic reddish patchy bark. Not the strongest smell on these needles here, but we'll try it. I'm not getting a lot of smell off that.
Not really.
Scots.
Smells a bit like my refrigerator. Like the smell of a roast marinating. Smells like what we're cooking for supper tonight.
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't know if I smell that, but I don't smell a whole lot else.
Okay.
Go straight for that.
Sure, you get the side without the needles.
Oh, well, the flavor's not bad. What's that remind me of? It's mild, but it's slightly sweet.
Mild in the gingerbreadish sort of ballpark. Kind of the resin mouth coaty sort of thing we were talking about. A little bit sweet in a way.
Yeah.
Just the idea of sweet without actually being sweet. It's okay. It's not my favorite.
It's not my favorite, but it's not my least favorite either. I do like that slight sweetness in there. But it does have a bit of that mouth coating taste.
4.75 for me. Slightly less than a grocery store carrot.
Yeah. Yeah, once it sits for a bit, that mouth coating feeling kind of does take away from the experience. I would go a 4 on this one. The sweetness is nice, but that mouth coating.
Okay.
This next one, we weren't quite confident on our ID. Zach thought it might be Austrian black pine, but wasn't quite sure. We did rule out anything too poisonous for a small taste, so we at least were confident it would be safe to sample. If it is Austrian black pine, it's common around a lot of warmer Europe, the States, and parts of Canada, very long needled, and of all the European conifers, it's said to have the highest resin content. Long into the past, that resin has been farmed and harvested for a wide variety of products like varnish, soap, shoe polish, and rosin for the bows of stringed instruments.
Oh, that's not a bad smell. What's your thought on that? It's sort of a...
Sometimes I can't think of it till I have the flavor.
Yeah, it is a slightly sweet smell.
Yeah, a sweet smell.
There's something faintly vegetably in the smell for this one.
Yeah,
for me.
a bit of a vegetable flavor. Pretty mild, a little sweet.
It's almost, yeah. It's very vague, but once you've been woodworking for a while, just kind of the sawdust smell. But
Tastes like a wood shop. Honestly, a bit like high school wood shop.
a slightly sweetened wood shop.
The lumber section at the hardware store.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Do I like that?
Smells a bit more than it tastes.
Which honestly is about the same as a grocery store carrot for me. So I'll give it a 5.
It doesn't have that mouth coating feeling the same way. So yeah, sure get a 5. Better than the Scotch pine.
We're just not big pine fans here. But
Oh.
I don't blame us. I blame the pines.
Yeah.
This next one, we also weren't quite sure. Part of the trouble is that many junipers have different leaf shapes when they're younger than when they're mature. So this is a juniper. We narrowed it down to a few species, and it's not one of the dangerous ones, like Savin juniper. Boy, this sounds like what I recommend people don't do. But I was going off Zach's conifer knowledge, so if I develop kidney problems, I blame Zach, and not my high salt intake.
Kind of a nice, almost like a citrus jello smell. What would you say?
I was going to say it smelled a lot like the Rocky Mountain juniper one before, but... Okay, now that you mention it, yeah, a little bit of...
Like lime jello?
Okay, yeah. If you took the Rocky Mountain juniper before, the slightly sweet, cheesy menthol, and added in some citrus jello, I think that's what I'm smelling there.
Strong, bitter menthol juniper flavor. Not getting a lot of other flavor notes.
Yeah. I'm getting a cheesy aftertaste.
Okay,
Are you not getting that cheesy aftertaste? Like just
I mean,
a little bit up the nose?
Maybe you and I eat different kinds of cheese or
Okay,
think about
think-
them different.
Okay, for this one, think like have you had provolone before? Mm-hmm. And you get that little bit of bitterness up at the back of your
Okay,
nose?
I don't think about cheese until you explain it, and then I can't stop. Yeah, it tastes a bit like provolone.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not rating this one too highly.
3.5.
What was the, what did I rate the Rocky Mountain juniper? Oh, that was the question mark. That one I think rate the other one a 3. This one has less flavor though, so I would rate this one a 2. Or less of the good elements of the flavor. Yeah, this one's not doing it for me.
Back to the classics, though, and another confusingly named tree. Douglas fir. Confusingly, it's not a fir. Just like how, say, prickly pears aren't pears, they're cactus fruits, you have spruces, you have firs, and kind of midway in between you have Douglas firs. They're their own group. Oh, and their genus name means false hemlock. Not those hemlocks, conifer hemlocks.
And spruce needles are very pokey.
Uh-huh.
Fir needles are generally soft.
Right.
Spruce needles, when you pick it off, it leaves those woody bracts sticking off the twig. Fir needles tend to leave a sort of divot where you pull the needle out. And Douglas firs tend to be intermediate. They're a little soft, a little pokey, and they leave just a little bump. Not a big woody twig, not really a dip.
Anyway, these are magnificent trees, getting to be pretty massive at times, very common in the forests of western North America. Calgary, you see them, especially in the river valleys. Banff, they're in the forests. One on Vancouver Island is actually the second tallest known tree in Canada right now, last measured at 92.8 meters. They also have pretty distinct cones, having bracts looking like, as Zach described, dragon tongues. In Western Canada, this is kind of the classic budget option for Christmas trees because they're a local tree. So it would be great if they turned out to be tasty.
Now, it has a spicy, warm, citrusy smell. I quite like it.
Oh, yeah, okay. That's the first time I'm getting like strong citrus. Okay, that's nice.
Now, how do you describe it? Nutmeg?
I wouldn't say nutmeg here.
Allspice? Cloves?
Actually, I could see maybe a little bit of allspice, but definitely some lemongrass I could see for this one. As one of the big notes. Sort of a spicy lemongrass.
It reminds me of something I've smelled before, but I can't think of what it is.
Yeah,
Like oregano?
lemon thyme. Maybe more like
Yeah, it smells a bit like thyme.
lemon thyme,
Okay.
and a bit of coniferous resinous, but that's I think the dominant note is lemon thyme.
Now, the smell was good. The flavor is maybe not as good.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
I didn't like the flavor as much. I feel like I could just put some thyme leaves in water and get the same flavor. The smell was nice.
Maybe it depends how many resin globules you get. I like that. To me, it tastes a lot like it smells.
I mean, maybe I'll say
Yeah, okay. Lemon thyme tea, that's with a little bit of mouth drying quality to it, but if it was sweetened, it would be even better, I think. But just like this, I don't know. I would put this as a 9.
9 for Sam. For me, I don't like it as much. The flavor compared to the smell, which is fine. Maybe not everyone wants to eat a Christmas tree. Maybe they just want to smell it.
To me, this doesn't taste like eating a Christmas tree. That's the thing.
I think 4.25 for me compared to my other score results.
Okay.
I mean, it tastes more like sap and not necessarily in a good way for me.
Okay.
I'm going to cleanse my palate.
Right. I think the only thing that holds this back from being a 10 is that slight resinous mouth coatingness.
Might be nice as a candle.
Now, unfortunately, because we were filming this ahead of time, there were a couple of omissions we sadly had to make.
We couldn't get a balsam fir. We couldn't get a Fraser fir, which would be their classic fir Christmas trees, or in Europe, the original European silver fir, I believe it is. But subalpine fir is closely related to a balsam fir.
These subalpine firs, you can easily find them near Calgary if you just head up into high enough mountains. Banff has plenty, like these ones we saw around 1,600 meters elevation, though don't go harvesting from a national park. In the Yukon, these are pretty common too, and are even their official tree. Fun thing with these, when you find them, their bark often has a lot of little resin blisters, so we tasted the resin first. The flavor surprised us quite a bit. Almost like a, not citrusy, but...
It is citrusy in a way.
Okay, a little more in the direction of citrus anyway.
Oh, wow. Is it almost like a mojito?
Wait, now I gotta try this again. Okay. It's, oh, wow. Okay, yeah, I can see mojito.
Or lime, almost. Like lime rind? But
Yeah.
it's not quite it.
Okay, yeah, some sort of a citrusy rind, minus the main citrus elements. Like, oh, that's weird.
Also wondering what this is.
Maybe with a hint of, that's bunchberry.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a lot of those in the boreal forest.
What's the hint you are detecting? Can't place it?
Is
Neither
it-
could I.
I'm almost thinking like a hint of mouthwash plus a little
Oh.
bit of tequila. It's like something like
I don't know.
Maybe. There is something unpleasant.
Yeah,
Not sure what.
little bit of juniper in there maybe too.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah, I think that. Wow. Okay, that's not what I was expecting. An interesting taste, but would the tea taste the same? Oh, that's a different smell.
Very different smell.
Yeah, that tastes more like not peppermint, or smells
Spearmint?
maybe
Like a sweet mint?
more definitely minty than some of these other ones were.
Wow. Like citrus rind in a way. I mean, it's still kind of bitter and sappy. But there's a citrusy.
It's sort of
And minty.
if you had a citrusy mint.
Like a spearmint meets orange rind? Meets tree sap?
Yeah, I could see that. And yeah, if the orange rind was part of the minty spiciness that kind of hits you. That's interesting.
It's kind of fun. It
Yeah.
cools your throat a bit.
And the smell of this does remind me a bit more of the balsam firs that we tended to have at our house.
Okay, let me see. It's up there. But do I like it more or less than the white cedar? Now, this would probably look better as a Christmas tree as long as you found a good specimen.
Yeah. Oh.
The flavor stays. It's hard to cleanse it.
Yeah, it is a nice flavor though. Yeah, I'm gonna have to compare it to this one here. Compare it
Oh,
to
right. Warm cinnamon. Honestly, I might like that better.
Okay. Maybe I'll compare across the same ones.
Personal taste, right?
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's the warm cinnamon for sure.
That's my favorite, is the Eastern White Cedar, warm cinnamon. This one, I'll give it my second favorite, let's say 8.5.
I would. That is a nice smell on it too. It does have that slight citrusy edge. I would put this one at an 8.
And you heard it first here, folks. The most delicious Christmas tree is the Eastern White Cedar. But if you picked something that was actually commonly used as a Christmas tree, well, I might go with a fir tree. But maybe you go with Douglas fir?
Yeah, Douglas fir, but white spruce is a solid choice as well.
Yeah, the spruce trees, maybe blue spruce, surprisingly good. Pine trees are pretty boring. Junipers might taste like cheese.
Yeah.
And I think that sums it up pretty well.
Yeah. In all, this was a surprising diversity of flavors. I'd tried a couple conifer teas before, so I expected resinous and warm, spicy flavors. I didn't expect provolone, or tequila, or lime jello. Also, nice to know that you don't need to splurge on an expensive tree to get good flavor, at least here in Canada. So, are there any Christmas tree species I missed that you think would taste better, or do you have any favorite uses for conifers as a flavoring? Let me know in the comments. As always, thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing, and if you'd like to support me further, you can find me on Patreon and YouTube memberships. And for more plants, weird and wonderful, mundane and strange, join me next time on Ambling with Sam.